Brawl Stars it's a pretty unbalanced game, but realistically speaking, we all already knew that. So today I'm gonna suggest every single balance change I feel the game needs right now. Either it's a gear, a gadget, a star power, a hypercharge, anything at all. If you like the content, do not forget to subscribe, and let's start with the worst character in the game, Frank. Oh my god, he's so bad. Not even Doug is at the F tier anymore. So the only thing that I feel like it can actually fix him, it is while he's unloading his busy attack and the super, he cannot be knocked back, stunned, or slow. With this being said, it's pretty much his first gadget that has a passive. And before you even freak out and say where is the counterplay, do you really feel like the worst character in the entire game needs counterplay? And on top of that, the fact that he must stand still to attack, I feel like that is already enough counterplay. And on top of that, his second star power will be changed from just simply fat to while he's unloading his super, he receives less 90% damage. So when he supers, you must run. Or you can just try to dodge the attack. Because let's also be realistic, there are hundreds of abilities that just simply allow you to dodge Frank's super. And best case scenario, even with these buffs, he's probably only gonna be viable in Gem Grab or Foot Brawl, but I feel like this is already good enough for Frank to finally be viable. Next we have Hank. Hank will have his movement speed increase from normal to fast. So the main idea is just to make running away from his bubble just by simply walking, making it a lot harder. Now the only characters that can actually run away from just a Hank trying to walk towards them with the bubble, it's just very fast characters, and there is not a lot of them. On top of that, Hank will now have the tank trait, so by receiving damage he charges up the super, which I feel like this should have been done a long time ago, especially the tank trait. Like someone just rushes into Hank and he literally has nothing to do unless he already has the super, which now will be charged by receiving damage. Makes perfect sense to me. Next we have my boy Chester, my favorite character actually. And just kind of a curiosity, in case you didn't know, back in I think like 2021 when he was released and just I think a month later he got those 4 nerfs, there was actually a secret 5th nerf who was never fixed, which was his super costs. Back when he was released, you only needed to hit 6 projectiles to get the super, but now you need 7. Why hasn't that been fixed in 2 years? So yeah, that is the first thing. I feel like his damage does not need to be increased actually, but his super cost should be decreased. On top of that, his Pop Rocks super can now be thrown with a tick range. Like you see, not his basic attack, the super throwing range. So it's not a lot, but trust me, it will make this super a lot better. And on top of that, Chester will now have the option to have the reload gear. So if you ever tried his second gadget and actually got like the 25% reload speed buff, and you have seen how good he actually is, I feel like this gear would actually benefit Chester a lot. Next we have Bonnie. Bonnie has just slowly died. Like with all of the hypercharges, I mean, pretty much any brawl with a hypercharge can replace a Bonnie at this point. So her cannon from HP will be increased from 9600 at max level to 10,000 HP. Just for the record, all of these changes I will be speaking about the max level, just for you to know. Her range at the cannon form will be increased from 9 tiles to 9.33 tiles, which will make her a slightly kinda more to a sniper, and the damage from the cannon will be increased from 2000 to 2200. It's very hard to hit the projectile, so it should feel slightly more rewarding to hit those shots. Next on the list we have Carl, another character that has just suffered so much from hypercharges. But because Carl is actually good when you don't consider the hypercharges, I think that there is only one viable option. New hypercharge for Carl. I would call it Double Pickaxe Wielder. So pretty much, now instead of just throwing one pickaxe, Carl would throw two connected pickaxes at the same time. With this being said, the width of his basic attack would be increased from 1.67 to 2.33. So if I am correct, it would have the same width as a Gale basic attack. And he would also have a 5% speed increase, 5% damage increase, and a 5% shield increase. On top of that, because he now uses two pickaxes instead of one, his super range, yes, the super has a range, or radius, I think it's actually more accurate to call it radius. It would be increased from 2.33 to 3 tiles. And on top of that, his super would now be able to break walls. I feel like with this new hypercharge card would actually be really good, and I feel like I actually got the idea really well. Tell me your opinion in the comments, please. Next we have Janet. Janet is just one of those characters that can be really annoying, but she just sucks right now. And she already got a slight buff in the next, a really long time ago now that I think about it. But right now I feel like her damage at max level would be increased from 1960 to 2040. So a slight damage increase, but it would actually be really helpful for her because I feel like she just lacks the DPS. Next on the list we have Surge, and Surge, she just sucks right now. Since the gadget nerf, it has never been the same, and I feel like his super recharge rate, so when you jump into someone, should be increased. Not back to 1/3 what it used to be, but to 1/4. So even though it does not change many basic interactions, if you actually get a couple like the split thingy shots, it will actually help a lot to cycle your super, which I feel like that is the main thing that Surge should be. It's all about jumping into people and just getting shots at them. That is the fun part of being a Surge, and I feel like that's what he really needs. Next on the list we have Daryl. The most forgotten tank and assassin in the game at the same time. Poor guy. But I feel like by buffing his base stats he would be way too strong at lower levels. So at my point of view, the best thing you could do it is new hypercharge. Now, while he is hypercharged, he would have a 24% speed increase, a 10% damage increase, and a 10% shield increase. And his super would now deal 2 times damage, and it would destroy walls, but he would also shatter pieces of those walls to the enemies, kinda like how Stu's gadget works. It's literally how Stu gadget works, but on his super it has a baseline while he's hypercharged. And because Daryl can cycle a lot his super, I definitely feel like his hypercharge would be really solid. Next on the list we have Barley, probably the most mediocre thrower in my opinion. And so just some tiny buffs to make him slightly better. His first gadget will now also deal 300 damage per second, it's no longer just a slow. His second gadget heal will be increased from 720 to 800 heal per second at max level. And on top of that, to really make him good, his super projectile speed will be increased from 1504 to 17. Let's be realistic, those numbers do not matter because no one knows how those numbers work. So his super will be 14% faster. So this means that it would actually be a lot easier to hit at least one of the bottles immediately. His super is really good for area control, but it's very hard to actually hit the super unless someone walks into it, or someone just simply does not try to run away. And I feel like that should not be the case, and since his last buff was to make the super deal the same damage as the basic attack, I feel like the super should also have the same speed as the basic attack. Next we have Ash. Honestly, I feel like this should have been done a long time ago, and I want his rage, the amount of rage that you gain from losing HP, to be increased. So back then you needed to lose 125% of your HP to be fully rage, which is more than you can take for sure. But now it would be changed to 100%. Back when he was released, when he was totally broken, you only needed to lose 75% of your HP to get fully rage, which made him crazy broken with healers, especially Byron. and the middle term should be where he would be balanced. And to not make the second gadget even worse than what it already is, instead of being losing 25% HP for 40% rage, it will now be losing 20% HP for 50% rage. So kinda buffing in both senses, the HP loss and the rage, to make him overall better. Next we have Mandy, and I feel like since Piper got that massive damage buff from Nani as well, Mandy is just never used. So her super charge rate will be increased. Instead of needing 5 hits to get your super, now you will only need 4 hits. So it will be a lot easier to cycle those mega rainbow supers. A lot easier. Next on the list we have Willow. Willow's super charge rate will also be increased. Now instead of needing 12 ticks of poison, you will instead need 10 ticks of poison. So in case you hit someone and then that person dies and you don't get that full potential of getting the super, now it will be slightly easier. You still need 4 ammo, but now you don't need 4 complete ammo. Her super now will last 5 seconds instead of 4 seconds, because I feel like has a mind controller, she lacks a lot that kind of part. Like, it feels like you never mind control someone enough to actually have value from the super. And on top of that, the super width will be increased from 0.33. Yes, the super is actually a lot smaller than what I thought. Even when I researched it, I was actually impressed. It will be increased to 1.33 of width. If Charlie, if Cordelius, if Doug all have such a large super, then why shouldn't Willow have it as well? I mean, Cordelius is broken, Charlie is broken. I feel like Willow's scenario is probably not even the worst, so I feel like she should have the same width as both of the others. It feels totally fair in my opinion. Next on the list we have 8-bit. I just feel like 8-bit is slightly worse right now, but I just want a simple HP increase to his damage booster. Because it is so easy to be extremely aggressive right now with almost every hyper charge, I feel like just increasing the damage booster HP would be very helpful, from 5,600 to 6,000. Next we have Gus, and kind of a slight rework. Now his ghost bar, instead of needing to hit 3 enemies, now it will just simply charge over 3.5 seconds. Honestly, the hitting 3 enemies, it is just so weird in my opinion. His projectile speed will be increased from 3,600 to 3,800 to make it slightly easier to hit the projectiles. Now, because you don't actually get anything that great from hitting the projectiles, I feel like it should be slightly easier as well. And his cookie popper damage will be reduced from 2000 at max level to 1600, but now the cookie popper will stun for half a second. Now the knockback could be extremely annoying, and actually the knockback effect in most scenarios, it was actually almost like a 1-second stun. So with this being said, by stunning half a second, it is kinda doing the middle term, and I feel like these would make us really viable in the meta. Next we have Byron. He just cannot handle hypercharges at all, so his HP will be increased from 4,800 to 5,000 at max level. His damage or heal from the basic attack will be increased from 680 to 720. And on top of that, his second star power, which is the piercing every 3.5 seconds, can now work at the same time with the second gadget. So you can just shoot 3 piercing thingies with both of these abilities, which I feel like it should have been like that from the very beginning. Next on the list we have Sam, and Sam, there is literally only one thing you can do: rework him. His first star power will now be a passive, but instead of healing 20% of the HP, it will now only heal 15% of the HP, to not make it way too broken. His new first star power will be that his super would now stun for half a second. Even though it does not sound very good, remember that you can cycle his super if you grab the thingies incredibly fast. Like, you can just throw it again, and half a second stun on a speed buffed Sam running towards you and his super, it can be really good. And his second star power, now instead of waiting 10 seconds on that tiny area for someone to give you the super, now you would only need to wait 5 seconds. So it's technically 100% rate increase buff, but I still feel like the third star power would be the better one. Next we have Maisie, and honestly, since she get that charge super nerf, she just, in my opinion, sucked. So her attack range will be increased from 8.67 tiles to 9.33 tiles, so she'll be slightly more of a sniper. Her first star power now scales the farther it is, kinda like a Piper, but only up to 20% more damage. Her second star power slow duration will be increased from 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds, because now it's just harder to get the super. And her second gadget, oh my god, who even uses this, now will be kinda reworked. You instantly reload one ammo and your next attack will instantly charge your super. So, instead of just dealing more damage, let's just imagine just use the super, you click on the gadget, you hit that projectile and you immediately get the super back. Because let's also be realistic, why would you not use the dash and stun? It's just a great gadget, so this is just trying to make the gadget choice slightly harder. Next we have Penny, and the cannon will now shoot instead of every 3.5 seconds, will shoot every 3 seconds. And on top of that, the cannon HP will be increased from 5,600 to 6,000. I feel like since Penny got those HP nerfs, I feel like the cannon should have a major role in how you play her. And by buffing the cannon, she would have a lot of more control over the map. And I feel like that is kinda what she's really needing, and these would also make her slightly better for heist, for that cannon to kinda cheap the heist safe as well. Mortis. Mortis now has the option to choose the reload gear. Honestly, I feel like he just needs it, it would be a major help for him, and yeah, I definitely think he needs it. Next we have Kit, and now while Kit is on just supering into someone, instead of just receiving the normal damage, now Kit will receive less 25% damage. So while on the super, she would have a 25% shield. When Kit was released, he was invulnerable while at the super. Now he's dead at the super pretty much. So the 25% shield, just like Willow when she mind controls someone, I feel like Kit also deserves that treatment. Next on the list we have Grom. Now his super, instead of needing 6 hits to charge, it will only need 5 hits to charge. I mean, it's kinda hard to hit those shots consistently, and Grom, it's just not really that great in my opinion, and I just feel like this would make him a lot better. On top of that, his Watchtower HP will be increased from 1500 to 2000, and the duration will be increased from 20 seconds to 30 seconds. I mean, I just feel like unless you're playing Grom on a bushy map, and even on those bushy maps, you still would prefer to use the second gadget. That's how bad the Watchtower in my opinion is. And to end the buff list, I want Shelly's hypercharge rate to be increased from 30% to 35%. Do not freak out, it's just that. And to explain it, now instead of needing 3.33 supers to charge her hypercharge, now you would instead need 2.85 supers to charge her hypercharge. And I just feel like since Shelly got those nerfs, she's just not that great anymore. And her hypercharge is not even that great, so why is it so expensive? And now, starting with the nerfs, Larry and Lori, oh my god, those guys. I want the gadget heal, instead of being 33%, which would be 2000 HP, it would now only be 1000 HP, just like Lola's gadget. I mean, when you really think about it, this is a Lola's gadget, but instead of being a teleport, it is just moving. Yes, it is kinda worse, but I still feel like healing that much HP, it is really strong. Lori's damage will be reduced from 1200 with I think a whole ammo to 1000, so reducing his damage by around 15% kinda. And on top of that, Larry's projectile speed will be decreased from 2000 to 1800, so you can kinda think like a barley attack. And with the range reduction, I feel like he should also have this nerf, because his projectile takes longer the longer you throw it. So because now you cannot throw it as long, it would make a bit of sense to the projectile speed to be slightly slower as well. And I do not want over nerfing, because his type of characters, if you over nerf him just by a little bit, he can just pass from the S tier to the D tier. So I think that these nerfs are already a nerf. Next on the list, we also have Piper. I absolutely hate her, like Jesus Christ. Her auto-aimer gadgets will no longer activate her second star power. No, in case you don't know, if you actually connect the gadgets, you still get from her second star power 0.4 ammo. Now, even though that may not change a lot, I feel like that is just something unnecessary to, I would say, one of the strongest gadgets in the entire game. But what I would also like is her supercharge rate to be reduced. At maximum range, you gain 42% of your super, and at minimum range, you gain 12%. Now, at max range, you would get 34% of your super, and at minimum range, you would get 10%. So now, you still can get your super in 3 hits, but it would always need to be at max range. This is just to make your super slightly harder to get, because it's very annoying to always see a Piper being able to just make it out of the situation. Either you're an Edgar, a Fang, anything. Next on the list we have Fang, and do I even need to say anything? Jesus Christ, that guy, oh my god. His super damage will be decreased from 2400 to 2200. So before he had the damage buff onto the super, it actually used to be 2000. So again, we are kind of going for that middle term, because that is where usually brawlers are actually balanced. Next we have Leon. He can be kind of a menace, and I feel because his hypercharge keeps him invisible, and both of his star powers make his invisibility stronger, I feel like the problem it's not exactly the hypercharge itself, I mean kinda is, but it's also about those star powers. So, his first star power bonus speed will be reduced from a 30% increase to a 24% increase. And his second star power heal will be changed from 1360 HP healed per second to 1200 HP healed per second. And on top of that, his hypercharge bonus damage will be decreased from 25% to 15%. His hypercharge just makes him deal way too much damage, and those invisibility buffs are crazy. And with these, Leon should be way much more balanced. Next on the list we have Charlie, and I have no idea why is no one talking about this type of nerf, but I want the Cocoon HP to be reduced from 8400, which is just an absurd amount of HP, to 4200, so cut HP in half. Charlie is still almost one of the best characters in the entire game. Obviously that's kinda because of the hypercharge, but I always thought that the Cocoon should have less HP. And the major problem is that when you cocoon someone, it's just almost game over. You have total control. It feels like even if the enemy team tries to destroy the cocoon is just way too thick. It has way too much HP. So by reducing HP to half, the enemy team will have slightly more control on trying to release their teammate slightly sooner. And I feel like that would make her super a lot more balanced. Next on the list we have Cordelius, and I want his Dark Realm super duration, instead of being 8 seconds, it would be 6 seconds. So at this point, Cordelius has been a S tier character for just so long, and now he also has a hypercharge. I will say a brain dead hypercharge, but still a hypercharge is hypercharge. And I just feel like reducing the amount of time that he can spend on that Dark Realm, it's not exactly a nerf, because there could be some rare scenarios where it would actually be kinda better, but I feel like overall, this is a nerf that he needs. Next on the list we have Jessie, and Jessie is just everywhere, suddenly. Her hypercharge buff was nuts. So, let's nerf the hypercharge. Now, the bonus damage will be reduced from plus 25% to plus 5%. You get that hypercharge so frequently, why do you need to deal so much damage? And the bonus speed, instead of being 26%, it will be 24%. I feel like almost every single character or brawler has a 24%. Why is she special and she just gets a 26%? I do not get it. Make it 24% speed buff, please. Next on the list we have Miko, and even though he's not broken, he's just crazy annoying. So I want his first star power, instead of stealing 33% of the enemy's max ammo, which is 1 ammo, now he would steal 25%. So instead of stealing 1 ammo, you would steal 75% of 1 ammo. I hope I'm making myself clear here. So you would not steal 1 entire ammo, you would steal 3/4 of 1. It is a very small nerf, but it is the only nerf that I feel like he needs. Next on the list we have Angelo. Since when does this guy deserve to be very fast? What are you talking about? He already has a star power that makes him faster on water, and you make him very fast? I was actually shocked when I knew about this. I thought that he was fast, and then I suddenly realized that he is very fast. He has the same speed as Leon and Crow. So let's reduce his movement speed from very fast to fast. I feel like he just has way too much mobility. Walking on water is already so good. Why does he need to be the fastest brawler in the game as well? Next on the list we have Dynamite, and please, for Christ's sake, his second gadget stun duration has to be reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. I am tired of seeing just some random Dynamite on the bushy, just throwing 1 dynamite at me, stunning me for 1 eternity, and then I just die as an El Primo with 12,000 HP. What is this? It's just wrong. This should have been done a long time ago. Next on the list we have Pearl with kind of a rework. I want her HP to be increased from 7,800 to 8,200. But now her trait will be nerfed. When you're totally heated up, instead of gaining a 75% bonus damage, you will only get a 60% bonus damage. So when you're totally heated up, you will not deal as much damage. You'll still deal a lot of damage, but not as much. And on top of that, her first gadget, instead of dealing 33% of bonus damage as burning, now you will deal 25% bonus as burning. And her second gadget, instead of being 25% of heal, it will now be 33% as heal. So it's almost like the two gadgets kinda swapped in a certain way. And the final change that I want to see, it is to collect second gadget. Instead of healing 80% of the damage dealt, which in my opinion is just crazy. How is this even a thing? This is one of those gadgets that is just broken, but everyone just simply agrees on it. It just does not make sense. Instead of being 80% heal, it will now be 60%. It's not a massive nerf, but I feel like she should have gotten this a long time ago. And because of her hypercharge being also so good, I feel like this is pretty fair to me. And there you have it. After almost half an hour, all of the balance changes that I feel like this game needs. If I missed anything, please write in the comments down below. I definitely want to hear your opinion. And I'll see you on the next video.